Hey warriors, listen carefully. Most people never become confident, not because they can't, but because they are doing the exact thing that destroys it. Every time you wait, every time you overthink, every time you hold back, you are training your mind to stay weak. Look at how you act in real situations, how often you pause before speaking, how often you replay your words in your head, how often you wait just a little longer before taking action. That delay is not random, it's learned. Most people think confidence comes from feeling ready. It doesn't. It comes from moving before you feel ready. It was shaped by years of trying to avoid embarrassment, mistakes, and standing out too much. And without realizing it, you built a version of yourself that feels safe instead of strong. And now you call that confidence just because it looks controlled on the outside. But inside it's hesitation wearing a mask. Because real confidence doesn't slow you down. It doesn't make you calculate every move. It doesn't make you wonder how you'll be judged. Real confidence moves first and deals with consequences after. It acts without needing everything to feel perfect. And the uncomfortable truth is this: if you constantly need to feel ready before you act, you will stay stuck exactly where you are. Because readiness is not what creates confidence, action is. And until you understand that, you'll keep waiting in moments where you should be moving, thinking you're being careful, when in reality, you're just holding yourself back. And what's worse, most people never realize why this keeps happening, but in a few minutes, I'm going to show you the exact pattern that's silently controlling your actions. And this doesn't just affect small decisions. It shows up in the moments that actually define your life. Even Niccolò Machiavelli understood this long ago, that power never comes from appearing confident. It comes from acting without needing approval. If you keep living like this, nothing really changes. You might improve a little on the surface, maybe speak a bit better, maybe act a bit more confident in safe situations. But when it actually matters, when the pressure is real, when the risk is high, you will fall back into the same hesitation, because the root problem was never fixed. And that's why most people stay stuck for years, not because they lack ability, but because they keep trying to fix confidence from the outside instead of correcting what's happening inside their mind. They chase motivation, they watch videos, they wait to feel ready, but that feeling never lasts. And the moment things get uncomfortable, everything collapses again. And this cycle repeats over and over until it becomes their normal. But this is where everything changes, because what you're about to learn is not motivation, it's structure. These 7 ruthless lessons are designed to rewire how you respond in real moments, how you think under pressure, how you act when fear shows up. And the final lesson is the one that completely removes hesitation if you actually apply it. You will stop seeing hesitation as something random and start seeing exactly where it comes from and how to shut it down. But understand this clearly, this is not for everyone, because once you see yourself clearly, you can't pretend anymore. You can't go back to making excuses. You can't go back to playing small just to stay comfortable. You either step into control or you stay exactly where you are. So the only question that matters now is simple. Are you ready to stop waiting and start moving like someone who is in control of himself? Before we go any further, I want you to make a small decision right now, not later, not after the video ends. Right now, go down and type this in the comments. I act without waiting. This is not just a sentence. It's a signal to your mind that you are done delaying and ready to start moving differently. Number 1, think for yourself. Most people think they decide for themselves, but most of the time they just follow what feels safe. They look around, see what gets accepted, and slowly shape themselves to fit in. And without noticing it, they stop trusting their own judgment. So, when it's time to act, they hesitate. Because if you always need someone else to agree before you act, then you are not leading your own life. Machiavelli believed that those who depend on others for direction are never truly in control of their own outcomes, and environments change all the time. What works in one place might fail in another. What people accept today, they might reject tomorrow. So if your behavior depends on that, your confidence will always feel unstable. It will rise and fall based on reactions, and that is not strength. Real strength works differently. Strong individuals don't look outside for direction. They build it inside themselves. They decide what matters before the situation even begins. They create their own rules, their own standards, their own limits. And once those are clear, decisions become faster because they are no longer emotional. They are based on a system. But there's a hidden problem here that most people don't notice at first. You don't ask what people will think. You ask if this matches your standard. And if it does, you move. If it doesn't, you don't. It becomes simple. And that simplicity removes hesitation completely, but only if your system is actually strong, and most people's isn't. Now, here is where many people get confused. They think this means ignoring everyone and doing whatever you want. But that's not control. That's just reacting in a different way. Real control means you still listen, you still observe, you still collect information, but you don't let it decide for you. You use it, then you choose. This is where most people lose control without realizing it. The final decision always comes from you, and that changes how you move in every situation. Because when your standards are clear, your actions become consistent. You don't act one way today and another way tomorrow. You don't shift based on pressure. You stay steady, and people notice that. They may not understand it, but they feel it, because consistency is rare. Most people are easy to influence, easy to change, easy to predict. But when someone moves based on internal rules, they become harder to read, harder to control, and that naturally builds respect without needing to ask for it. Now make this practical. Don't keep this as an idea. Define your rules clearly, not in a vague way. Be specific. Decide what you accept and what you don't. Decide how you respond when things get uncomfortable. Decide what actions you will take even when you don't feel ready. Write these down if you have to. Make them real, because the moment you create your own system, you remove the need to look outside, and once that need is gone, hesitation loses its power. You stop waiting. You stop adjusting yourself to every situation. You stop asking for silent approval. You just act. And that is where confidence actually begins, not in how you feel, but in how you decide, because when your mind knows that your actions come from a clear internal system, it stops fighting you. There is no confusion, no back and forth, just direction. And when you have direction, you move faster, you move cleaner. And over time, that speed turns into control. So if you want to remove hesitation from the root, stop asking the world how you should act. Build your own standards and follow them without breaking them. Because the moment you trust your own system, everything changes. Now, what I'm about to show you next is where most people break, even if they understood everything before this. Number 2, get used to pressure. Most people don't break because they lack skill. They break because the moment things get intense, they lose control, their breathing changes, their thoughts become messy, their focus disappears, and instead of doing what needs to be done, they start thinking about everything that could go wrong. And in that moment, they slow down or freeze completely, not because the situation is impossible, but because they are not used to that level of pressure. And this is where the real difference is created. Because pressure doesn't break you, it shows how prepared you really are. For most people, this is where things get exposed fast. Machiavelli warned that pressure reveals who is fit to lead and who is ruled by fear. It shows your default response when things are no longer comfortable, and that's why two people can face the exact same situation and act completely differently. One hesitates and the other moves instantly. One overthinks and the other stays clear. And the reason is not talent, it's exposure. Weak patterns are built in comfort. When you always choose easy situations, predictable routines, and low-risk decisions, your mind never learns how to handle intensity. So when pressure finally shows up, it feels overwhelming, and your system tries to escape it as fast as possible. But avoiding pressure doesn't protect you, it makes you fragile. This is exactly why people collapse when it actually matters. Because the less you face it, the less prepared you are when it matters. And pressure will always show up, in important conversations, in decisions that affect your future, in moments where timing matters. And if you are not trained for those moments, you will default to fear every time. Now, understand this shift. Pressure is not something you remove. It is something you get used to. The goal is not to feel comfortable. The goal is to stay functional, even when you are uncomfortable. Because when something becomes familiar, it stops feeling threatening. And this is exactly how confidence is built. Not by waiting for calm situations, but by learning to operate inside intense ones. And this only happens through repetition. You have to put yourself in situations where the outcome matters, where there is risk, where there is a chance things won't go your way, and you stay there. You don't escape the moment it feels hard. You stay long enough to observe yourself, to notice how your thoughts react, how your body responds, how your behavior starts to shift. And instead of running from that, you begin to control it step by step. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Your instinct will tell you to step back, to delay, to choose something easier. But that instinct is just your old pattern trying to protect you. And if you keep listening to it, nothing changes. But if you stay in that pressure and continue acting anyway, something starts to shift. Your reactions become slower but more controlled. Your thoughts become clearer. Your breathing stabilizes. And what once felt overwhelming starts to feel manageable. And this is where real growth happens. Because now pressure is no longer controlling you. But there's a level beyond this that very few people ever reach. You are learning to function inside it. And over time, this creates a major advantage, because while others panic, you stay steady. While others hesitate, you act. While others try to escape the situation, you move through it. And people notice this difference immediately, even if they don't understand it, because calm behavior under pressure stands out, especially in a world where most people are controlled by it. And here is the deeper layer. Once pressure becomes normal for you, it becomes uncomfortable for others, and that gives you an edge, because while they are reacting emotionally, you are thinking clearly. While they are slowing down, you are moving forward. And this is how control is built, not by avoiding hard situations, but by becoming someone who can handle them without breaking. So, if you want to become truly confident, stop trying to feel ready and start putting yourself in situations that test you. Stay there, learn from it, repeat it, until what once made you hesitate becomes something you can handle without thinking. And when that happens, hesitation starts to disappear, because pressure no longer feels like danger. It feels like something you already understand and know how to handle. This next one is subtle, but once you see it, you'll start noticing it in every interaction. Number 3, don't show everything. Most people believe that being real means showing everything they feel, saying whatever comes to their mind, and reacting honestly in every situation. They think this makes them strong and authentic, but in reality, it often makes them easy to read. And when someone is easy to read, they are easy to predict, And when they are easy to predict, they are easy to influence. Machiavelli taught that being understood too easily makes you easier to control. Because if people can see your reactions clearly, they can understand what affects you, what pressures you, what excites you, and what throws you off balance. And once that becomes visible, your behavior starts forming patterns, and those patterns can be used against you without you even noticing. This is why showing everything you feel is not strength. It's actually the fastest way to lose control in a conversation. It is exposure, and exposure without control reduces your position in any interaction. Now understand this shift. Real strength is not about showing everything. It is about choosing what should be seen and what should stay hidden. Because people don't respond to your thoughts, they respond to what you show them, your tone, your timing, your reactions, your presence. And all of these can be controlled if you are aware enough. Instead of asking yourself what you feel like doing in a moment, you start asking what makes sense to show right now, and that one change moves you from reacting to deciding. Because when you act based on emotion, your behavior changes constantly. You say things too quickly, you explain more than needed, you react in ways that lower your position. But when you act based on awareness, your behavior becomes intentional. You choose when to speak and when to stay quiet. You decide how much to reveal and how much to hold back. And this is where silence becomes one of your strongest tools. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, so they rush to fill it. They talk more than necessary. They explain themselves too much. They try to prove something, but every extra word gives away more information. It shows how they think, how they feel, and where they are uncertain. And the more they reveal, the easier it becomes to understand them. Controlled individuals don't do this. They are okay with silence. They don't rush to fill every gap with words, because silence creates pressure. Most people can't handle that pressure, which is why they expose themselves. It makes others think. It makes them wonder. And in that space, people often reveal more about themselves than you ever could by talking. And this shifts the balance completely, because now you are not trying to control the conversation. You are controlling how it unfolds. And over time, this builds a certain presence. You start appearing more composed, more stable, harder to figure out. And that naturally creates distance, not in a negative way, but in a way that makes people more careful around you, more aware of how they act, because they cannot fully predict you, and what cannot be predicted is harder to control. Now, this does not mean becoming fake or hiding who you are. It means becoming selective. You still understand your emotions, you still observe what is happening, but you don't let everything come out automatically. You filter it. You remove reactions that don't serve you. You stay steady, even when pressure is present. And that consistency builds a strong image over time. People begin to associate you with control, with calm behavior, with stability. And that is where real authority comes from, not from being loud, not from trying to impress, but from being consistent in how you carry yourself. So if you want to move with real confidence, stop focusing on expressing everything and start focusing on what you are showing. Decide what people see, decide what they don't, and most importantly, decide it before the moment controls you. Because when you control perception, you control how others respond to you, and that is a level of power most people never reach. And this is where your relationship with fear completely flips if you understand this correctly. Number 4, learn from fear. Most people treat fear like a warning sign that tells them to stop. The moment they feel it, they step back, delay action, or distract themselves so they don't have to face it. And while that feels safe in the moment, it actually keeps them stuck, because they never understand what that fear is trying to show them. They just react to it without thinking, and that is where they lose control, Because fear is not just something you feel, it is something you can learn from, but only if you stop reacting to it the way most people do. Machiavelli saw fear not as weakness, but as a signal that can be studied and used. It points directly to something that is unclear, something that feels risky, or something you are not fully prepared for. But if your first reaction is to escape it, you never get to see that clearly. You stay confused, and confusion keeps you weak in situations where you need clarity the most. Now understand this shift. Fear is not there to stop you, it is there to guide you. It highlights where your limits are right now, it shows you what matters, and it reveals where your understanding is incomplete. And once you start seeing it this way, it stops controlling your behavior and starts helping your thinking. Instead of reacting emotionally, you begin to slow down and ask simple questions. What exactly am I afraid of? What is the worst thing that could happen? How likely is that outcome? What can I control in this situation? And what can I do to reduce the risk? And the moment you start asking these questions, something changes. The fear that felt overwhelming starts to become clearer, because fear feels big, not because the problem is huge, but because you don't understand it clearly yet. Your mind fills the unknown with exaggerated outcomes. This is where most fear becomes completely irrational. It creates worst-case scenarios without limits, and that is what creates panic. But when you define the situation, when you break it into parts, that intensity drops, because now you are dealing with something real instead of something imagined, and once it becomes clear, you can respond to it, you can prepare, you can adjust your actions, and this is where control begins, not by removing fear, but by understanding it. If you are afraid of rejection, you face it more often until it loses its impact. If you are afraid of failure, you improve your process, so mistakes become less likely. If you are afraid of uncertainty, you gather more information and create options. Every fear can be turned into a step forward if you stop running from it, and this creates a major advantage over time, because while others avoid situations that make them uncomfortable, you start learning from them. While others stay stuck in the same patterns, you start expanding your ability to handle more, and slowly, the things that once made you hesitate stop having the same effect on you, not because they disappeared, but because you understand them now. And when you understand something, it loses its power over you. That's the point most people never reach. And this leads to a different kind of confidence, not the kind that depends on feeling good, but the kind that comes from knowing you can handle what happens because you have already thought it through. You already know the risks, and you already have a plan. And when your mind reaches that level, it stops reacting with panic. It starts responding with logic. So the next time you feel fear, don't try to ignore it or push it away. Pause for a moment, break it down, understand what it is showing you, and then use that information to prepare your next move, because hidden inside every fear is a clear direction. And if you learn how to read it, you will always be one step ahead of those who choose to avoid it. Now this one will feel counterintuitive, and that's exactly why it works. Number 5. Stop being always available. Most people think being active all the time makes them more important, so they reply quickly, stay available, join every conversation, and try to be seen as much as possible. But this actually lowers their value over time, because when you are always there, people slowly stop noticing you. This is exactly how people lower their own value without realizing it. It becomes normal, expected, and easy to ignore. Machiavelli made it clear that what is always available is rarely respected, and without realizing it, they turn themselves into something that is easy to access and easy to forget. Now understand this shift. Value is not created by how often you show up. It's created by how much your presence is actually felt. It is created by how limited your presence feels, because when something is not always there, people start noticing it more. They pay closer attention, they become more aware of it, and this is how importance is built, not through constant exposure, but through controlled visibility. This is basic human behavior. People naturally focus more on things they might lose, things they don't fully have access to, and things that are not guaranteed. And if you understand this, you stop trying to be everywhere. You become more selective. You choose when to respond, when to engage, and when to step back. And this creates a different kind of impact, because when your presence is not constant, it carries more weight when it appears. Your words feel more important, your actions stand out more, and people pay attention in a different way. Now, this does not mean ignoring people or disappearing completely. That would just be avoidance. Real control means you decide your availability with purpose. You are not reacting to everything. You are choosing what deserves your time and energy, and what doesn't. And this creates space for you to think clearly, space for you to focus, and space for others to notice the difference. Because when you are not always there, people start to feel that absence. They start to wonder. They start to pay more attention when you return. And that shift increases your perceived value without you needing to say anything. Another important part of this is unpredictability. When your behavior becomes too consistent in terms of availability, people learn your pattern. They know when you will reply, how you will react, and that makes you easy to manage. But when your presence is controlled and not always the same, you become harder to predict. And when people can't guess your next move, they can't easily control you, and this changes how people interact with you. They become more careful, more aware, and more respectful of your time, because they no longer feel guaranteed access to you, and access is directly connected to value. The less automatic it is, the more it matters. Now apply this in a simple way. Stop responding instantly to everything. Stop explaining yourself more than needed. Stop trying to stay visible all the time. Allow some delay. Allow some space. Let your presence feel intentional instead of automatic. At first, this will feel uncomfortable because you are used to reacting quickly, but that is just your old habit. And once you break it, you will notice a clear shift, not only in how others respond to you, but in how you feel. Your focus becomes stronger, your energy is not scattered across everything, and you start moving with more control, because now you are deciding where your attention goes instead of giving it away freely. And over time, this builds a stronger presence without effort, because in a world where everyone is always available, the person who is selective stands out immediately. So if you want to increase your value, stop trying to be everywhere. Start controlling when and how you show up, and let your absence do the work your constant presence never could. At this point, this is where things start getting more precise and more personal. Number 6. Understand your habits. Every person follows patterns, even if they don't notice them. The way you react, the way you think under stress, the way you behave when something matters, none of it is random. It just feels random because you've never studied it properly. It follows a repeated path that has been built over time, and the problem is most people never stop to study these patterns, so they keep making the same mistakes again and again, just in different situations. They think the situation is new, but their response is exactly the same, and that's why nothing really changes, because the pattern is still running in the background. Now, understand this clearly. If you don't know your patterns, you can't control them. You will keep reacting in predictable ways, especially in moments where it matters the most, without even realizing it, especially when pressure is high, because that is when your default behavior takes over. You don't think, you just respond based on what you have done before, and if that pattern is weak, your actions will be weak too. This is why some people lose control in certain moments, not because they want to, but because their pattern activates automatically. Now, this is where awareness becomes powerful. Instead of only looking at what you did, you start looking at how you did it. You begin to notice what triggers certain reactions, what situations make you hesitate, what kind of pressure makes you lose clarity. And once you see this clearly, you can start changing it, because now you are not reacting blindly, you are observing your own system, and that gives you a chance to interrupt it before it fully takes over. For example, you might notice that you hesitate when you feel judged, or that you rush decisions when you feel pressure, or that you avoid action when something feels uncertain. These are not random habits, they are patterns, and once you identify them, you can prepare for them. You can decide in advance how you will act the next time that situation appears. And this is where control starts to build, because instead of repeating the same behavior, you are replacing it with something better. Now, this doesn't only apply to you, it also applies to other people. Everyone has patterns, the way they react when challenged, the way they behave when they feel ignored, the way they respond when something doesn't go their way. These reactions are not random, they follow a structure. Machiavelli understood that once you can predict behavior, you gain control over outcomes. And when you start paying attention, you begin to see it. You notice how certain people always react the same way under similar pressure, and this makes their behavior easier to understand, not because they are simple, but because they rely on familiar responses. And once you see these patterns, your interactions become more clear. You can predict how someone might respond, you can adjust your approach, and you can avoid unnecessary conflict or mistakes. Another important part of this is timing. Most people look at actions as single moments, but actions are connected. One reaction leads to another, one decision influences the next. And when you start looking at behavior as a sequence instead of isolated events, you gain a deeper understanding. You begin to see how situations develop, how reactions build on each other, and how outcomes are formed over time. And this reduces confusion, because now you are not surprised by what happens. You can see it coming before it fully unfolds, and that gives you an advantage, both in how you manage yourself and how you deal with others. Internally, this creates stability, because you are no longer caught off guard by your own reactions. Externally, it creates awareness, because you understand how people move under pressure, and together, this builds a level of control that most people never reach, because they are too focused on what is happening on the surface instead of what is happening underneath. So if you want to become more confident and more in control, start studying your patterns. Don't ignore them, don't justify them. Observe them honestly. Identify where you lose control, where you hesitate, where your behavior changes under pressure. And once you see those patterns clearly, you can start breaking them, replacing them, and building stronger responses. Because the moment you understand your own system, you stop being controlled by it, and that is where real change begins. And this final one is where everything comes together. Miss this, and nothing else will fully work. Number 7. Act without waiting. Hesitation looks like thinking, but really, it is just waiting too long. It's the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. And inside that gap, your mind starts creating problems that don't even exist yet. It starts imagining outcomes, replaying risks, questioning decisions, and the longer you stay in that space, the harder it becomes to act. Because the longer you wait, the more your mind starts creating problems. And this is where most people lose opportunities, not because they didn't know what to do, but because they waited too long to do it. They thought they were being careful, but they were actually slowing themselves down. And over time, this delay becomes a habit, a pattern where action always comes second to overthinking. Now understand this clearly. Hesitation does not protect you. It weakens your timing. Machiavelli believed that hesitation gives power to others, while action takes it back. And timing is everything. When you act too late, the moment is gone, the chance is gone, and your confidence takes a hit, because every time you delay, you teach your mind that you are someone who doesn't act immediately, and that identity becomes stronger with repetition. This is why you need something stronger than hesitation, and that is decisive action, not anger, not emotional reaction, but decisive movement without unnecessary delay. It means when you have enough information to act, you act. You don't wait for perfect clarity. You don't wait to feel fully ready. You move forward with what you have and adjust along the way. And this changes everything, because the moment you start acting faster, your mind has less time to create doubt. Your focus shifts from thinking to doing, and once you are in motion, it becomes easier to continue, because action creates momentum, and momentum reduces resistance. Now, this doesn't mean acting blindly. It means understanding the difference between useful thinking and useless delay. Useful thinking helps you decide. Delay keeps you stuck, and most people spend too much time in delay because they are trying to avoid mistakes. But mistakes are part of the process. You cannot remove them completely. And waiting longer does not guarantee better outcomes. It just guarantees slower progress. Controlled aggression breaks this cycle by forcing action before doubt takes over. And once you start doing this repeatedly, your system begins to change. You become someone who moves quickly when it matters, someone who doesn't get stuck in endless thinking. And this builds a different kind of confidence, because now you trust yourself to act, even when things are not perfect. Another important part of this is commitment. Hesitation grows when you are not fully decided, when part of you wants to act and part of you wants to stay safe. Your mind keeps switching between options, and that creates internal conflict. But when you commit fully to a decision, that conflict disappears. Your energy aligns in one direction, and that makes action easier. Now combine this with pressure. Most people slow down when things get intense. They become more careful, more quiet, more hesitant, but controlled aggression does the opposite. It keeps your movements steady, your voice clear, your decisions direct, even when the situation is not comfortable. And this creates a strong impact, because people notice when someone does not hesitate under pressure. It feels different, it stands out, and it becomes harder to influence or control that person, because they are not waiting for permission, they are acting based on decision. But remember, discipline is important here. Without discipline, aggression becomes messy and uncontrolled, but with discipline, it becomes precise, it becomes focused, it becomes effective. So the goal is not to do more. The goal is to remove the delay from the actions that already matter, to act when you have enough clarity instead of waiting for perfect certainty. And over time, this changes how you see yourself. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who hesitates, and you start seeing yourself as someone who acts. And that shift changes everything, because your behavior follows your identity. And when your identity is based on action, hesitation loses its place. It no longer controls your decisions, because action comes first, and doubt doesn't get the time to grow. And that is what controlled aggression really is. Not force, not speed without thinking, but clear decisions followed by immediate execution. And once you build that habit, your confidence stops depending on how you feel. It starts depending on what you do, and that is something far more powerful and far more reliable. Now, if you really paid attention, you can already feel the difference, not outside, but inside your thinking. because what you just saw was not random advice, it was a complete shift in how you understand confidence. You saw that confidence was never about acting bold or trying to look strong. It was about control. Control over your decisions. Control over your reactions. Control over how you move when things are not easy. You saw how depending on others weakens your direction, how pressure reveals your level of training, how showing everything makes you predictable, how fear carries useful information, how being too available lowers your value, how patterns run your behavior without you noticing, and how hesitation quietly destroys your timing. And once you see all of this together, something changes, because you can no longer pretend that your actions are random. You start noticing your own behavior in real time. You start catching yourself when you delay, when you overthink, when you look for approval, when you react instead of decide. And that awareness is powerful because it gives you a moment of choice, a small gap where you can either continue the same pattern or break it. And most people ignore that moment. They fall back into what feels familiar. But if you use it, if you actually act differently in that moment, even once, you begin to shift your direction, because change does not come from understanding alone. It comes from action repeated over time. And the more you apply these principles, the more natural they become. Until one day, the way you used to think feels strange to you, and the way you act now feels normal. And that is when real confidence starts to settle in, not as something you try to show, but as something that becomes part of how you operate every day. At this point, everything comes down to one simple decision: not later, not tomorrow, but right now, because you are standing between two paths. One is easy, familiar, and comfortable. It asks nothing new from you. It lets you keep thinking the same way, reacting the same way, delaying the same way. And if you choose it, nothing will really change. Things might look slightly better for a while, but under pressure, you will return to the same habits, the same hesitation, the same patterns that have been holding you back. And the other path is different. It requires you to act even when you don't feel fully ready. It requires you to stay steady when your emotions try to take over. It requires you to make decisions without waiting for approval. And that path is not easy, but it leads somewhere real. Because confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build through action, through repetition, through moments where you choose to move instead of pause. And every time you make that choice, even in small situations, you are training your mind to respond differently. You are building a new pattern, one where action comes before doubt. And over time, that becomes your default. So the real question is not whether you understand this. The real question is whether you will use it, because knowledge without action changes nothing. But action, even imperfect action, starts shifting everything. So decide clearly. Are you going to stay where you are, or are you going to start moving like someone who is in control? Before you leave, make sure you take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel, because what you're learning here is not surface-level advice. It's about changing how you think and how you act in real situations. And the next videos will push this even further. They won't make things easier for you, but they will make you stronger, harder to influence, and more in control of yourself. And that's what actually matters. Because at the end of the day, the world does not respond to what you plan. It responds to what you do. And the more you act, the more everything around you starts to shift in your favor.